Welcome back to the channel. Today we're doing our Awkward Chats preview podcast.
Podcast preview is what most people call it. And we're going to be talking about the new DAS changes at Disney.
Dun dun dun.
Come get lost with us.
There have been a lot of changes, and if you are on social media, anywhere where Disney content is shared, this may not be new to you. Now, what may be new to you is if you're not somebody that this affects, maybe you don't know all the details, maybe you've just kind of heard like what other people are saying, but we wanted to talk a little bit about the changes that Disney has made to Disability Access Service, or known as the DAS, and let you guys know our thoughts and opinions on it. Also, some news about like the channel and where that's going and why we're taking it in the direction that we're taking it. So
the Disability Access System is basically a system that's supposed to give people with disabilities the same park experience as someone who doesn't have a disability. I mean, simply put, that's what it is. And it's required by law. It's required by the ADA, which is the American Disabilities Act. And if you don't know about the American Disabilities Act, you should look it up because it's a fascinating story. But how it was passed was basically a ton of people with disabilities basically strewed themselves across the actual steps that our legislators have to walk past to get to their jobs, so that they would know how difficult their life is without ADA access. And those senators were then basically forced to vote on a bill to help those people because they were being ignored. Mm-hmm. And that's how it all came to pass. So when you think about maybe we should move the goalpost a little bit or give them a little bit of more access, you have to think about what people gave up to get where we are.
Yes.
Before starting with the whole like, well, maybe it doesn't matter. It's just a little thing. Because moving the goalpost is how the system gets worse.
Disabilities come in all shapes and forms. You can have a physical disability, you can have a mental disability, you can have a invisible disability that might be something like internally within your body that's happening that maybe to somebody off the street you look normal, but that's just because you're really good at managing your disability, which takes a lot of work. And I think that's the biggest thing that a lot of people don't realize, whether you have like a visual, like, hey, I see you're in a wheelchair, or you're somebody up walking, talking. People don't realize the amount of work that it goes into to deal with an illness, a sickness, a physical limitation to try to make your life as normal as possible.
Yeah, a little bit about the old system before we kick in the new system. Basically, the old system was you could either do the interview in the parks or you could do it ahead of time. If you did it ahead of time, you basically phoned into the system, but it was all digital. So it was on a laptop or your phone. You'd video in. They'd ask you a couple questions about why you need the disability access system. They'd ask you,
why can't you stand in a line?
Why can't you stand in line? And that would be basically it. You explain that, and then they'd be like, okay. And they would approve you or disapprove you. And most of the time you get approved because, again, disabilities... It's more like it would flow towards inclusivity than exclusivity. That's how the ADA is written. It's more about inclusivity.
It's about leveling the playing field. Everybody has a certain limit that they can hit. Well, you're trying to level that so that everybody has the same opportunity and the same experience. And Disney did a great job of doing that in the past. It was definitely the mecca of people who had disabilities where they would choose to vacation over other experiences because they knew they could go there. They knew that they weren't going to have to fight, and they knew that they were going to have a good experience because Disney cared. Now, their new system, completely different, and they announced these changes, I believe it was end of March, was when they first announced that these changes were coming. And what they did initially is they changed the verbiage on the DAS. And it used to be that the verbiage stated anyone who had, like a mental issue or capacity that they couldn't wait in lines, anybody who couldn't wait in a line due to heat, And I believe there was one other line that was in there as well. So it was very all encompassing. Well, they took everything out except for people who have a mental disability, including autism. And don't get me wrong, I 100% believe that people who have autism, people who have any type of mental issue should be included in this. There's nothing against them. However, there's more to that than just those. So,
well, before we go any further, we're not punching down.
Yeah.
We're not going to punch down in this podcast. We don't think you should punch down. The problem is greed, and it's the Disney executives. Those are who you should be punching at. If you're frustrated with your Disney Lightning experience, your Disney Genie Plus experience, it's not people with disabilities that are causing these problems. It is the CEOs. It is the executives that are making the decisions. It is those people who are making your experience bad at Disney.
Yep.
Stop taking your frustrations out on people who are below you and punching down. Punch up. No reason to punch down. And that's not what we're doing in this podcast. So whether you have autism or you need the line, that's not for us to judge, and we think you should use it.
Yep.
But we don't think that they should just
exclude everybody.
Pick a certain disabled population, and then the rest of them, we'll get into what they told them and what we say.
So Disney, if you guys know anything about the disability services at theme parks, the most popular one recently has been the IBECCES, which is an international. It's long. It's an international system, and it's used overseas in theme parks overseas because they're not the United States of America, and they have different laws surrounding disabilities. Now, Universal, Six Flags, and I want to say another theme park within the United States have migrated to using that system. Some people love it. Some people hate it. You have to submit a doctor's letter. You have to go through a interview process with the IBCES. And then if they say, yes, you have a disability, then you have to go to said theme park and have a second interview with the theme park. So it is a 2-part process. And even then, even if the IBCES says you have a disability, that theme park could still say no. So it's not a win-all system. And there have definitely been mixed reviews from people who have used that. So I'm just going to throw that out there. Now, and Disney
you also shouldn't have to have a doctor's note according to the ADA too. Just
correct.
Maybe you want to contact a lawyer about that.
Which is definitely something we talked about a lot in the last 2 years since Universal started utilizing that system. I have not gone through that process personally. It is on our list of things to eventually do, but we have not gone back to Universal in several years. And it may be something that you guys may see on the channel in the future. Because, I'm not completely against it. There are things that do bother me about the system. I think in order for me to talk about it, I need to go through it. And so that may be in the future. Now, Disney has decided not to partner with IBCES, which I'm glad. Kudos to them for that decision. But they did decide to partner with a different group. And I don't remember what the name of the group is, but they specialize in children with autism. That is their specialty. And that is what this other group is that you're going to be having an interview with. And supposedly it is supposed to be medical staff. Supposedly. But as a nurse, I know that not all nurses are specialized in all areas of medicine. I know everybody likes to think like we know everything, but we don't. We know our specialized field, and that's what we know. Now, we can understand medical information, and we can Google things, and we can learn, but it doesn't make us a specialist in everything medical. So take that with a grain of salt. So the new process, you can no longer do an in-park interview for a DAS. If you do go to the park and you haven't done the interview process, they will set you up with a tablet, I believe, and a way to do the interview process virtually from wherever it is that you are. So that capability is there, but it's not the same in-person interview that you were allowed previously.
And according to the writing, you're only allowed to do that once. Mm-hmm. So if you do it once and then you come back and try to do it again, they're supposedly saying that they won't allow you to do it, but that's not what ADA law says either.
Agreed. So you have to do the pre-DAS interview online. Now, one thing I would like to note that I don't think a lot of people realize before they signed up to do the initial interview is that they have put in the fine print that if you agree to do the DAS interview, that you agree not to sue collectively in a, what is that called?
Class action lawsuit.
Class action lawsuit.
Which we're not attorneys, but I don't think that's legal either.
Yeah, so
You
definitely.
might want to seek legal advice there too.
That to me was, because I was talking about, well, maybe I'll just do it. But once I found out that that was in the agreement of going, this is before you even find out if you get accommodations.
Well, and she missed the part too. You have to buy a ticket too before you can find any of this out. So you need to buy a ticket for the park, have
That's
a date.
step one, actually, is buy a ticket.
And get a reservation to go into the parks too before you can even have this interview.
Which I don't believe is ADA either, because now again, we're not attorneys, but I do believe that I should be able to find out if I am going to be accommodated before I purchase a ticket to a place, especially with as many issues as they're having and the likelihood that I will not be accommodated in a way that is useful, which I'll get to in a second. So you buy the ticket, you sign up for your advance interview, you do your advance interview, and you agree to the terms and conditions before you even talk to someone, which is that you won't collectively sue them, which if you know anything about litigation and suing major corporations, that definitely takes a lot of wind out of your sail if that actually is upholdable in court. Mm-hmm. Again, not attorneys, I don't know, but that definitely would strongly weaken your fighting ability.
Well, now it'll weaken the ability to find an attorney. See, an attorney makes more money if multiple people get involved than millions of dollars of settlement. He gets like 20% of that. Mm-hmm. Whereas if it's just an individual person, it's only going to be a few $1,000s he's going to be able to get. So you want to be able to sue with multiple people so that the attorney can make more money, making it more possible for you to find an attorney to sue.
So as of May 20th, the changes went into effect, and it was not good. If you were anywhere on the internet, you may have heard from somebody, you may have seen it yourself. All of the people, which is a large population of people who go to Disney, have disabilities. And you may not realize it because a lot of us are really good at masking, and a lot of us are really good at hiding what really bothers us, you know? And they were met with a lot of difficulty. So one of the issues that I'm seeing over and over again is the people who previously qualified for DAS. So I've used DAS for the last 10 years. I honestly didn't know about it at first for a while, and I did a little bit of research into it. And then I was like, it's worth me asking if I can have an accommodation because of the heat and my diabetes and low blood sugar, high blood sugar, things that happen to me while I'm in the line. And Disney never asked any questions. They were like, yep, you qualify. Here you go. And so I've used DAS for the last 10 years without issue, no issues whatsoever. And it has definitely made my park experience a lot better, because before I knew what the DAS was, there were so many times I had to leave the line because either my blood sugar bottomed out, we've had to leave the park because I got so sick because of the heat. There were just multiple reasons why we couldn't have a good experience, and being able to have the DAS in our park day allowed us to be annual pass holders for a period of time. It allowed us to take spontaneous trips to the park when we no longer lived in Orlando or even California. And it definitely helped us mitigate some health issues that I have. Now, currently, people who have said like, well, I can't stand in the line because of the heat, right? Disney's telling them they can leave the line, and they can leave their party in the line, and they can return back to the line when their family members have reached the end. I don't think that's an accommodation at all whatsoever, because that's always existed. That's always been available at Disney, and it was so shitty, nobody used it.
Well, first thing is, you're never going to find a cast member in the line. The cast members are only at both ends. So they're at the one end, making sure that you get in the right line, and then they're at the other end, basically securing the seats and pushing all the buttons so the ride starts. That's where they are. So you're not going to find them in the in-between. The other thing is you have to hope that you're with somebody else, because if you're not, then where do you return back to the line? You have no idea. And then on top of that, you're also getting separated from your party, so you're going to spend 90% of the day without the people you came to the park with. What's the point of going to the park at that point? Yeah.
How is that equal?
You're not going to have the same experience. One of the benefits of Disney and one of the fun pieces is, and standing in line stinks, I'm with you on that, but you're with your party, you're spending time with them, you're telling stories, or you're doing funny things while you're standing in line, you're learning more about each other. All of those things are gone from people with disabilities who can't wait in line. And then what if you can't find a cast member? Think you have like irritable bowel syndrome or something and you have to go to the bathroom. You're not going to find a cast member, so you're supposed to poop in line?
Or there's a line of 5 people waiting to talk to that cast member, and now you're stuck waiting.
I mean, it doesn't work. And you're just punch up. All of the CEOs are just putting this on park people, whatever, cast members, employees, whatever you want to call them.
And I think that's despicable that they're putting it off on the cast members.
Well, remember the other thing they said too, for people who have problems standing in line because people are too close to them, they can have a party surround them and create space.
And practice.
So all of you people who've been to Disney, clap if you can hear me. Okay, now get closer to each other. That's the cast member 101.
All available space.
Yeah, that's cast member 101.
All the available space. They will yell at you and tell you, fill in all the available space.
And what are you supposed to turn to them and be like, I was told to create a bubble?
I'm creating a bubble.
By the executive, the CEO said I should create a bubble to keep myself safe.
And they're just going to be like,
no.
And then they're going to get yelled at by their managers because they didn't fill in all available space, and they can't accurately depict how many people are in that space, because they genuinely know, like, if I fill this space up to here, it's roughly this many people to move into the next room.
So another thing that we heard was that people were getting the accommodation where they had to go to the ride, ask for a return time, and then leave.
And that was if the cast member at the ride felt you deserved it.
Yeah. So now they're putting it again on the cast members or the employees, the decision making. Like it's and then how do you prove?
Like how do you prove you have a disability? I mean, and not only that, my question to that is, how is that any different than a DAS?
Yeah.
How is
that?
Why are you taking that away from, like, if you're telling me I have to go to the ride and get the return time, okay, fine.
But that
used to be the old system.
Yeah, that was the disability access system like 4 years ago, which is fine. Like she said, it's fine.
So maybe they make 2 systems. Maybe they make a system for people who have, because they're stupid. But it doesn't make sense. And then, like I said, you're at the mercy of that cast member. And do they feel that you deserve that accommodation? They are not medically trained, nor is anybody at Disney necessarily trained on disabilities and what's a disability and what's not a disability. And you're putting it off on people who are more than likely teenage to mid-20s, because that is the majority of the cast members at Disney, because most of them are CPs, college program people. And you're putting it in their hands to decide whether or not to give somebody an accommodation. That is outrageous to me.
So let's do a couple seconds on the arguments against. So one of the arguments is that it's an abused system. Our argument to that is, show me the evidence.
Right.
No one has any evidence they've released. We've had a vlogger who supposedly kept statistics. You want to release them? I have a doctorate. I'm happy to look at your stats, and we'll see what they really say. But that's BS. The other thing is that they're taking up too much line. So one of the arguments is now that when they went to Genie Plus, a ton of people signed for the DAS. You know why?
Because Disney used to have, well, at least Disney World used to have a free Fast Pass system, Fast Pass Plus. It's existed since I was a kid in different iterations, but there's always been a free Fast Pass system at Disney.
Right. And so those people with invisible disabilities, like Nacy talked about earlier, are good at masking those disabilities and hiding them. They would hide them by just using the free Fast Pass system.
Mm-hmm. You can make it work.
But now that you took that away, they're not going to pay extra. People with disabilities are not required to pay more money to have the same experience that someone without a disability doesn't have. That's what the ADA says, folks.
And Genie Plus can vary in price from $15 a day per person up to, I've seen in peak times, $50 a day per person.
And the reason why you're seeing more people in those paid lines is because the CEO wants more money. So, like, especially I know a lot of people probably complain about like Rise and Ratatouille and all those Lightning Lane Plus ones. Well, they just sold unlimited amounts because they can make $30-$40
per
off
person.
of each person. So they're greedy. It's a CEO thing. You need to take it out on the CEOs and not people with disabilities. The people with disabilities were not taking up those lines. The greed of the Disney executives were taking up those lines.
Because the way that the Disability Access Service Pass works is it used to be you had to go physically to the ride. Based on whatever the wait time was at the time that you got a return time was the time you came back. And if you think about it, you're actually waiting more. So let's say you want to go ride Slinky Dog. Slinky Dog is 65 minutes. They give you a time, 65 minutes from the time that you signed up.
So if you got it at 1 o'clock, you'd have to come back at 2:05. And then you'd enter the lightning lane.
And then you enter in the lightning lane, which is an additional anywhere. I've had it 5 minutes, but I've also had it 45 minutes.
Yeah, we've waited on Rise of the Resistance almost an hour.
So sometimes you're actually waiting longer than the people in the actual queue. So that does not actually affect the people in the lightning lane. It doesn't affect the people in the regular queue because you're waiting in the same spot. I'm just not standing in front of you. I'm standing. Usually I'm not standing. I'm usually somewhere in air conditioning, sitting somewhere having a drink because I can't do that. Or we're in a show where you're sitting down in air conditioning because that's pretty much all I can do is sit in air conditioning. And if you know anything about Florida, it's ridiculous.
And so basically the people are just waiting for their return time.
Yeah. It's not that they're doing a million other things and they're getting free fast passes. That's not the deal. And we talked about this the other night. We were talking about the old Fast Pass Plus system where it was in the phone. It was free before Genie Plus came around. And we would go to the parks even before we were pass holders and we could ride everything. It took a little finagling and we were on our phones and we were doing this and we were doing that. But we could find a fast pass for almost every single ride at Magic Kingdom, Epcot, Animal Kingdom, Hollywood Studios, holidays, non-holidays. We could do that. Yeah. Nowadays, you can't do that. And on top of that, they've limited how many you can do because it used to be we could ride if we wanted to ride Haunted Mansion all day, every day, we could just get a fast pass, ride it, get a fast pass, ride it, get a fast pass. You can't do that on the current system, but yet people can't find fast passes. Blows my mind.
Greed.
So clearly the issues that if people would just take a step back and think about the experiences that they had prior to Genie Plus, which I think we can all agree that Genie Plus is a terrible system. It doesn't work. They put it in. It was already junky and glitchy when it started, which I don't understand why they had to change it anyways. They could have just put a Genie overlay over the Fast Pass system and just left it. I don't know why they had to mess with the code to begin with. But we can all agree that Genie Plus was a terrible system from the day that it rolled out, and Disney has done nothing to fix that.
Disney executives, again.
And two, the lightning lanes, like what you touched on, they're just a money grab. They're just an extra money grab on top of it because, if you want to ride Haunted Mansion for the second time, you can pay for it.
No, it doesn't work like that. The extras are only for certain rides. So if you get Genie Plus, you can only use it to ride Haunted Mansion one time. There's no way around it.
So then why can nobody find a Genie? Why can nobody find?
I'm with you. I don't know. This is a conversation that we've had. It doesn't make sense.
Now we have gone to the parks since Genie Plus and Lightning Lane has come out. We've never bought Genie Plus. I'm just going to tell you, we've never bought it
because we don't believe in it. And if you stop buying this stuff, it will go away, people.
Yeah, we don't. It's us too. Like I said, we used to be pass holders. So for us, if we went to the park and we rode two things, it was good enough for us. Like, we've done the day in, day out, ride everything kind of stuff. So we have our favorites. We hit our favorites up. We eat at our favorite spots. We have our day. We move on. Now, if you're just somebody who's coming in vacationing, it's terrible.
Yeah.
It's not a good, enjoyable experience anymore.
I don't know why you guys are coming right now to Disney. It doesn't, we went to Disneyland too. It's the same thing. If you want to get on all the rides. You're not going to be able to most of the time.
Yeah.
Then, like, what's the point of paying that inflated $200 or $300 a day ticket? Like, what are we doing, people?
It's not cheap.
Yeah.
They keep raising the prices of tickets. So all of this being said about the DAS.
Sorry, we got a little off.
Yeah.
Tangent.
We just kind of wanted to explain that Genie Plus system. And, you know, people want to say that people are abusing it. I honestly, I would rather have 2 people abuse it than have nobody have access to it.
And I've seen no evidence of that. No one has actually put any evidence forth other than Disney saying that it stressed the system, and then some random vlogger who supposedly has data but doesn't share it says that. I don't believe you. Prove it. To me, prove it. You either put the evidence out or you shut up about it.
I think people deserve to pay money and have an enjoyable experience. Will I be going through the DAS interview process? I'm still not 100% sure yet. I think at some point I need to experience it and see what's happening, but I'm going to be completely honest. I want to talk to an attorney first. One, because I think it's important to know what my rights are going into it. My hope would be that if we do go through this process and I do talk to an attorney, is to hopefully maybe have somebody be willing to give us 20 minutes of their time to talk about what to look for when you're doing this, and just in your normal day-to-day life as somebody who has a disability, what your rights are, because I think a lot of people don't understand that either. And currently, until we go through that process, though, I think we're going to be taking a huge step back from Disney content.
And let's pause there for a second. So if you're an attorney watching this that specializes in disability law, we have an email down in those comment sections. Shoot us an email. If you're willing to come on the podcast, we'd love to have you on the podcast and talk about this more in depth, as well as if you're just interested in consulting on like what we should be looking for there so that we can share it with people. We have an email. You've seen on our channel, we've done ADA stuff with Disney. We've done the disability access stuff. That's one of our areas that we've done before and in the past, and we're definitely interested in exploring it, but we just want to make sure that we do it the right way.
Yeah, I've thought about this at length for the last 6 weeks, 2 months, however long it's been. And I truly feel like this is the hill I'm going to die on, if I'm going to die on a hill for Disney. And I think people, collectively, there's more of us than there are of them. And I think, and I tell people this all the time, it hurts. It does not feel good to walk away from Disney. Disney doesn't pay us at all. We've never made money from Disney on this channel. Nope. Just gonna preface that. We've never made money from Disney Corporation. We've never been on their PR list. We've never had that type of relationship with Disney, which I think looking back is probably a good thing, because this may be a little bit more of a difficult conversation. But I have my morals and my ethics, and I've always been a stan for Disney, and I love Disney until the day I die. But I think I love old Disney. And I love classic Disney, and I love what Disney used to stand for. And currently what they're standing for and what they're doing to people that have disabilities is just not okay. It doesn't sit well with me. It affects me, but it affects a lot more than just me. And I think moving forward that we are going to be more cautious about how we promote Disney, and we have a platform, and I feel that they just don't deserve positive platform right now.
Yeah, you do good things, you get good press, but you haven't done anything good in a very long time. And you're still living off the remnants of the 90s and before.
So, you know, it was hard. Definitely a hard conversation that we've had several of about, like, do we walk away?
Yeah, I mean, we were actually considering moving back to Orlando at one point. I mean, we were considering.
Yeah, as of a month, 2 months ago, it was very much in our radar. And then this happened, and it really kind of made us take a step back and evaluate, like, where are we going? Is this, why would we go back to Orlando full time? Disney was the reason for us to go back to Orlando full time.
One of the reasons, yeah.
And it doesn't look like it's going to be that way. Now, will we still go back to Orlando? Who knows? We'll definitely be going for like longer visits, like 2 or 3 weeks here, stay in an Airbnb and still do stuff in Florida. But I do not see Disney being on our radar for theme park videos, unfortunately.
Yeah, unless you guys really want us to do it, let us know in the comments.
Yeah.
And we'll go through the DAS thing again, though. Until we really sort of talk to an attorney and make sure we know what we're getting into. It's probably going to be a pause for at least a little bit. Unless Disney backtracks, which hopefully Disney does the right thing here. They have the opportunity to, and the CEOs know exactly what to do.
I think it's going to take their quarterly numbers hitting once this cycles through, because right now you have people who have already bought tickets, who have gone through the process, who have been denied accommodations, and they have a very difficult decision to make right now because Disney currently is saying no refunds. So they are in a difficult position of, do they push it? Do they go and experience it? Now, if you're listening to this podcast and you are somebody who went through the process, were denied accommodations, or you were given accommodations like return to line or, ask for a return time and they didn't work for you, then you should file a complaint with the ADA, the American Disability Act.
And let us know in the comments too. We'd love to hear from you too. Another dismissive thing too is they won't do this because if it was illegal, they wouldn't do it. That's not how corporations work. You can just look through the whole lawsuit with Chick-fil-A and having underage employees and working their meat processing and stuff. Corporations do it, right? And they do it until they get in trouble, and then they pay whatever fine is associated with it. And if that fine doesn't outweigh the benefits of people that they're forcing into the Genie Plus and the Lightning Lane systems, then they're just going to keep doing it because it doesn't matter to them because they're going to make more money the other way. So anybody who has the argument, well, if it wasn't legal, they wouldn't do it. That's not how corporations work, folks.
Don't get me wrong. They have attorneys, but their attorneys are like,
this is how much money it's going to cost you. If you can make more than this, why are we accommodating anybody?
Also, make sure you put this, and this into these. And if they're stupid, they may not push it.
Yeah.
And if you don't think those conversations happen,
you haven't been paying attention. You just haven't been paying attention.
I mean, you can look at lawsuits from oil companies and chemical companies who have poisoned people for years. And I'm going a little off tangent here, but there comes a time where enough is enough. And I get it. Disney's not a requirement in my life. And again, that's why I'm walking away. I don't have to go to Disney. Disney doesn't have to be a part of my channel. But I do know that Disney was a place that we had great memories. We used to have great times, and it sucks to walk away. It really does. It sucks a lot, but
that's what we're going to be doing for a little bit.
We've got a lot more of America to see, maybe some international countries. I don't know. So we're just going to maybe I want to go see the real France and go eat at the real Chef de France. Maybe I want to go find a Remy somewhere, go to Mexico, go eat some real Mexican food and go explore, there's other stuff out there other than Disney. And if we're going to show something on our channel, we want it to be positive, and we want to know that the company we're promoting on our channel isn't hurting other people.
Yeah. So if you're listening to us on our Aqua Chats podcast, you can find that anywhere. Make sure to check out our YouTube channel, which is Lostgirlintomorrowland.
Yeah.
And if you're on YouTube, go check us out on our podcast, Aqua Chats. And
And, as this develops, if any new developments come out, we'll definitely put out some updates if we hear them. But we just want to thank you guys for
tuning in,
listening to us. And we're going to be on the road. So who knows what the backdrop will change to.
So if you like this video and you're on YouTube, please give us a thumbs up.
Make sure you hit that subscribe too. Make sure you hit that subscribe button.
3, 2. So if you like this video, hit that thumbs up.
Make sure you hit that subscribe button.
And ring that notification bell so you get notified when we do at least 3 videos a week.
And we'll come and get you guys for the next one.
Ain't that the truth? Baby Ruth.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. See y'all next week. 3, 2. See you guys all next month on Awkward Chats.